Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to talk about a book that I was recently reading, The Bear and the Nightingale by Katharine Arden. This is the first book in the Winter Night trilogy, and I was really enjoying this book. Unfortunately, I had to DNF it for this one teeny tiny reason, but that reason really bothered me, and it took me out of the story and I could not get into it again. So today I'm going to talk about that. Before I get into the video, I wanted to just let you guys know that this is my own personal opinion, and if you don't share this opinion, that's completely fine. If this book or this series happens to be your favorite book series, or this is your well-loved book, then I'm really happy for you that you found a favorite book of yours, or you found and loved this book a lot. I'm really happy for that, but I just because of certain things I could not enjoy this book. So this is just my opinion. I'm just going to give you a general summary of the book. This book is set in medieval Russia, and it follows our main character Vasya, who can see magical creatures, and she loves nature, but her world is threatened by a pious new stepmother and a priest who forbids honoring old spirits, causing them to weaken and unleash an ancient evil, forcing Vasya to embrace her magical heritage and seek help from the Winter King slash demon Moroska to protect her family and village from encroaching darkness. So the premise of the book is quite promising, although I have to be quite honest, I did not read the summary of the book. I just went into the story because I knew that it was set during winter and it has fairy tales in it. So that is what the positives of the book was. We had great winter setting. It was immaculately done. The way the author kept on describing the cold and winter season that Vasya and her family had to face. By the way, Vasya and her family lived in rural Russian. I think it was a village. I think it was a village, and the fairy tale vibes of the book was very well done. I love fairy tales. Doesn't matter wherever they're from. I They could be English, German, or Russian. I just love fairy tales. However, there was this tiny reason that I was talking about that really drew me out of the story, and I initially could not mm, put this feeling into words. I could not put this feeling and thoughts into words because I did not know if there were any other people who can relate to it. So I went online and I found this book review by Nicholas Kotar, who is an author himself, and he also loves Russian fairy tales. But there was this one thing that he pinpointed, the exact thing that I was feeling. So I'm just going to read out that review, not the whole review, just like a few paragraphs that is talking about the same thing that I felt. The second issue has to do with the author's treatment of religion. Arden is good at showing the tension between paganism and Christianity. However, she makes a problematic choice. The gods and spirits of the pagan world are real, living and breathing characters, but there's not even a whiff of possibility of the Christian God being real. In fact, Christianity is almost disposed of in a very modern way as something inconvenient and full of rites that have no meaning outside of appeasing an angry God. The character of the priest shows this especially well. He's a tortured soul, a fascinating character whose spiritual descent into what is essentially demonic delusion is rendered extremely skillfully by the author. But in the end, his journey doesn't make any sense. He is not a charlatan, he's a man who seeks God, but he is also intelligent. When a demonic force begins appearing to him in the guise of an angel of light, he accepts the vision as his right, something that happens a lot in the lives of the saints, by the way. The problem is that the author also suggests very strongly that there is no God of the Christians. If that were true, then how could this priest have come to a spiritual state in which he was susceptible to such delusions? Surely someone as intelligent as he would have noticed the lack of any palpable presence of God during his journey towards priesthood. So when one of the characters expressed his bewilderment with the very idea of a creator god, and yet the spiritual world of the pagan deities is shown as an attractive, fascinating reality, it stopped me short and took me way out of the story. If there's no Christian god, how can his religion supplant something so vivid and real as the old paganism, the Rus, as described in this book? It really doesn't make sense. So this is what I essentially feel towards the book as well. I do think that Arden does a really great job in portraying some of the characters who practice Christianity, really positively. We have one character, Sasha, who is who's a devout person, who's a devout Christian. He's a man of God, and he even wants to become a monk to serve God for the rest of his life. And I think that is done very positively. But despite that fact, we do know that Katharine Arden did portray or heavily hinted in the story that there is no Christian God. And and as much as I tried to read out of my comfort zone, that really did stop me short. I just could not get into the story after that because I try to read outside my faith as well, and I read within my faith as well, but this story didn't really stuck with me after that, and it stopped leaving that impact it had when I started reading the book, and I could not continue on with it. But it could be possible that I might read this in the future, and we'll see then what my feelings are. But for now, I think I'll DNF the book. And also, one of the things that I came to know that later on in the series, Wasia also has a male love interest, and his name is Maroska, the the Winter King slash demon that I mentioned, and that also made me a bit uncomfortable, not comfortable, definitely not comfortable, made me a bit uncomfortable because I mean, there's this human girl with magical powers, and she finds love with this demon. I don't know, guys. Maybe I would have liked it when I was younger, but I don't like it anymore. But honestly, I do love historical fantasy. I've read historical fantasy as well, but I just did not like some of the aspects in the story. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video. I really like that I was able to uh, rant my feelings and thoughts on in this video. So I hope to see you in the next video.